Now, also, the team is working on a project around removing the old rocks in the game and the old cliff faces in the game. These are assets in the game that were used for the previous version of map generation and all that stuff. And then with the world update that came out a couple weeks ago, we have all these new beautiful rock formations and cliffs, and that kind of makes the old formations no longer relevant and they're just kind of extra in the code. And the devs have said that they plan on removing them. Originally, they were going to be removed for the November update. And there's also this body of work we're seeing being worked on where they're being removed from the various monuments because some of the monument prefabs had these older cliff faces and rocks in there. And that's being removed as well. And then what they announced earlier this week is that those rock formations will actually stay in the base level of the game until December. And now for normal players, this isn't relevant at all. But for custom map makers, this is kind of a big deal because generally speaking, if you have a custom map, it's using some form or some variant of these old rock formations. And if you want that map to be compatible going forward after December, then you will have to go in and replace all those rock formations and cliffs with a version of the new rock formations and cliffs. So that's just kind of a note for any map makers out there. You do have until December now to get that up and going. Now, we're also seeing a number of miscellaneous quality of life changes coming in onto staging, which tells us it's likely these are mostly going live for the update next week. So it looks like November will come with a number of quality of life updates as well. First and foremost, to the mixing table, recipes will auto add the ingredients to the mixing table inventory when clicking on a mixing table recipe, and it'll add them in the correct amounts and locations. So it'll make the whole mixing table endeavor a lot easier to do because you'll just click on a recipe. And if a recipe doesn't, if you don't have the ingredients for a certain recipe, that recipe will be grayed out and it won't be clickable. And then also repeat clicking on a recipe will just add another set of ingredients to the mixing table. So if you want to do a bunch of certain type of recipe at a mixing table, you can just grab the ingredients in your inventory and just click a bunch of times on that recipe and it'll auto add all those ingredients to the mixing table. So that's a nice little quality of life thing. It doesn't look like that's on staging quite yet, but I'd give it a high probability that that will make it in for the update next week. They've also added shopkeeper NPCs to Water Wells A and B, and this is another kind of cleanup for the world update 2.0 stuff that came out. There's the new water well that has the NPC where you can buy things from and the food cache and all that stuff. But then also there are still the old water well models and everything. A and B, I guess, are the variant names on the maps, and they didn't have the NPCs. But now NPCs have been added to those water wells, and so come next week, it looks like all water wells will have that shopkeeper NPC, which is nice. There's also now a new kind of slight change with markers on the in-game map. Basically, when you create a new marker on the in-game map, it will just default the name to a number of the marker. So it'll automatically add a name of like 0, 1, 2, 3. And then you can, of course, still change that name, but it's just kind of a quick little auto naming feature that's been added for adding new markers and small quality of life, but nice. There's also, and this was asked, I think, last week or maybe the week before, about the issues going on with caves since the world update came out. And those caves are basically, there's a lot of fixes being done for those caves that we're seeing in the commits. And it looks like those are making their way in for the November update as well. So if you've been having issues with certain caves and things like that since the World Update 2.0, then hopefully they should all be resolved by the update next week. There's also a cool little new quality of life thing going on with electricity, and I think water as well, where the input and output nodes actually have a little arrow attached to them as well. And what that arrow is doing is basically showing you very clearly with the arrow, like, oh, this is going in, this is going out. So you don't have to like hover over the node and read the title of the node as much to just see very easily which one you should have electricity going into and which one you should be feeding electricity out of. And it looks like this is being added to all various electrical devices. And I also think it is likely coming in with the industrial and the plumbing and stuff like that as well. And that's just a nice little quality of life where it just makes it easier and more straightforward when you're doing stuff and building stuff. They've also got an overhaul to the flashlight. Now, I don't know if this is going to be quality of life or if people are going to fucking hate this. Um, X seemed a little divided, but mostly it looked like people were hating on it. But basically, they've changed the visual for flashlights and basically given it a softer appearance and a little more haze. Some people were saying, ah, this is a nerf and they shouldn't have done it. Other people are saying, yeah, flashlights looked crappy at night and this is better. Um, uh, Artemis, are you seeing the change with the flashlight now? Is it looking different to you?
Yeah, I think there's a slight haze on like the outer ring. I'm not sure how clear that's coming through on stream. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I
but
think
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
seeing that
it
too.
doesn't feel like a huge nerf or anything in my opinion.
Yeah, really, they're just improving. I think the goal was improving the visuals of the flashlights and stuff like that. So, slight visual change. You can still see with them pretty well. And there's that little haze added, and it's just a little softer in appearance from the looks of it. And then finally, with regards to quality of life, you now have to hold the button for 2 seconds for unclaiming a bag. So no more accidental clicks and then you accidentally like just unclaim a bag. And it's like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Now you have to hold the button for 2 seconds, kind of just as a confirmation that you do indeed want to unclaim that sleeping bag. And that's something that was just merged in earlier today. I don't think it's on this version of staging quite yet. But yeah, that's another quality of life thing coming on in. And then there's various other stuff being worked on as well. These likely represent more long term projects that we'll see either December or onwards, but not likely any of these for November. But there's the Tier 1 SMG, which is being worked on, and that's a new version of the SMG that's going to be a low tier, probably easier to craft, less damage type of thing. We're seeing more work on snakes, which of course is tied up with that. It looks like at least it's tied up with that jungle ruins body of work. And that's a new monument and potentially even a new jungle biome coming into the game at some point in the future. It's going to feature snakes and crocodiles and maybe even panthers. And then there's also the vines that are very interesting, where it looks like you'll be able to Tarzan and swing from vine to vine in potentially this jungle biome, or at least in the jungle ruins monument. And that's all making steady progress forward. The majority of the work we saw this week in that realm appears to be on snakes, but I do think the team is working hard on getting that ready to go. I don't think we're going to see any jungle stuff until probably quarter 1 next year at the earliest, because it is, when creating a new monument, a very large body of work. And especially we've got new animals coming in, they have to do the AI iteration on all the animals and just a bunch of new assets for the game and everything that need to be completed. It's more of a long term project. So I think if I had to guess, maybe quarter 1, we will see some jungle stuff coming in next year. And then there's more work on shields as well. And it looks like there's going to be 4 types of shields, like a metal, a wood, and a kind of janky one. Maybe it'll be with like I don't know, road signs or something. And I'm not sure what the other one is, but the shields are being worked on in earnest. And no word on when these are going to come in, but they will be a new defensive device that you'll be able to hold in one hand and wield certain weapons like pistols and swords in the other hand. And the shields, based on the commits that we're seeing, will absorb the damage as durability loss. And you'll be able to put them on your back and then that will protect your back as well when they're on your back. So you'll have some rear protection even if it's not equipped. And it'll kind of be like a backpack on your back that will protect you. And then when it absorbs all the damage that it has in durability, the shield will kind of just break and disappear based on what we're seeing in commits. Again, no word on when these shields are going to be making it in. I think potentially we could see that come in for the December update, but we'll have to keep you posted on that. Oh, one more other quality of life thing that just was uh, kind of announced, it looks like, is there's going to be skinnable large backpacks too. So in the near future, it looks like some large backpack community made skins will be coming on in, which is nice. And then in other news, they're doing some basic tracking of queue wait times and status. I don't know if that's going to impact players or be visible to players too much, or if that's something for the devs just to kind of track more stuff. But we might have some slight changes to queue coming in the near future. And it looks like they're adding some new temperature tea recipes as well. It looks like placeholder ingredients at the moment. Not sure if that's going to come in for next week or what, but potentially some new tea recipes coming in. And then finally, we're seeing the first signs of ice sculptures coming in. And my guess on this is it's going to be a special Christmas item available during the Xmas event, which generally speaking is going live mid December and is live until the January update and forced wipe. And so, yeah, it looks like you'll be able to sculpt some things out of ice in December, most likely. And that's a cool thing. No word on if that's just going to be added to the game or if that's going to be a exclusive item store like purchase or what. But we will keep you posted as always. And then finally, it does look like charitable Rust numbers are sort of coming in. It looks like we did raise at least over $200,000 for direct relief. We don't have the total final numbers yet. We're still waiting on Steam to disperse the funds for the skin sale. And then we put it all up to the Tiltify account. And so, probably sometime next month, probably it might even be end of next month, we'll have final numbers on that. I'm hoping we breach over 250 and get close to $300,000 raised, but the numbers are still kind of fuzzy and up in the air. But I do just want to give people an update on that. And once again, thank everyone for purchasing the skins, for participating in the event, and to our production team and everyone who put work into putting this event on, and to Rust Reborn and all the other orgs and all that good stuff, because the event was awesome. It went off without many hitches. And it's just really, really cool to see the community come together and to be able to raise so much money for people in need all over the world. And this was our 10th annual charitable Rust event. And that brings the total amount raised to over $1.5 million over 10 years. And I'm just astonished by the Rust community, coming together and being able to raise so much money over the years for such various different amazing causes, literally positively impacting the lives of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world who need that support. And so, just once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to everyone who participated and tuned in and bought skins and donated on the event, because it really was incredible. And I'm looking forward to having the final numbers for that. And again, that might take a couple weeks to come in, just given Steam takes a little while to disperse skin sales and stuff like that. Anyway, Miss D, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we do have some. Um, can you make the server pop higher on a trio?
The server pops are dynamic, and they're dynamic based on a number of things, demand, but more importantly, performance. And every server is on, some servers are on different hardware than others. So if you're like, oh, why can EU main go to this, but EU trio can't? Well, not every server is built the same, and not every server is running on the same hardware. It's all to say we do push the server pops as much as we can, but also here at Rustified, we prioritize performance over cramming people in. I know in some other servers, they just cram people in until the cows come home, but then very often performance goes to shit and it ruins everyone's gameplay. And what's the point of having 1,000 people in a server if everyone has shitty performance? So it's all to say we do up the slots as we can, and we monitor it, and we have systems to monitor it. But we do limit it and prioritize performance. So I'm not sure if the pop for specifically U Trio will go up any further. It might be capped where it's at, but I do appreciate your understanding and that you get that our priority here is having the best gameplay experience for people, not just cramming as many in as we can.
I know this just came in, but it was on the same topic. So, why not having a grace period when someone gets disconnected and has to wait 200 plus queue?
We do have a grace period. It's a 5 minute grace period on all servers. You do have to be fully connected to the server. So you have to be in the server and like wake up in the game. And then if you get disconnected, you do have 5 minutes to be able to skip that queue. That's something we've had implemented for months. Facepunch implemented their own version of it the other month, but we even had that implemented for months before Facepunch brought it into the game, and it is still implemented in the game. However, if you are in queue and you just get disconnected or you're like on asset warm up, unfortunately the system doesn't it can't put you right back to where you were in the loading experience. It only works if you were fully in game. Now, if you are getting disconnected from the server, the biggest thing I see with that is people are playing on Wi Fi and they're like, why do I keep getting disconnected? And it's like, plug that shit in, dude. Plug that shit in. Ethernet cable is your friend. You cannot maintain a reliable connection to a game server over Wi Fi. And so make sure you're plugged in. If still you are getting disconnected, then reset your router and maybe even try a VPN. Unfortunately, this year I've been hosting video games for decades now. Literally, I'm an old man and I've been hosting video games for decades. I have never seen so many cyber attacks going on as I have seen this year. And what that means is that ISPs and server hosting companies need to shift routes around as these attacks happen, and so sometimes you might just have a shitty route from your ISP to our servers. Unfortunately, there's very little we or our host can do about that. But what can help is a VPN because that basically forges a new route to the server and very often can provide a more reliable experience. So that's just a couple tips when it comes to if you are getting disconnected. But overall, back to the original question, we do have a grace period. It is a 5 minute grace period. And the one caveat is you do have to be fully connected to the server.
Thank you, Bucks. When do you plan to do something about the cheaters?
We are doing everything we can do about the cheaters. We have brought on more moderation staff. We work with a third party anti cheat solution, which we're tweaking and honing and improving every week. We have our own in house anti cheat solutions and triggers that we use to catch hackers as soon as possible. And we, of course, rely on EAC and Facepunch. Now, when it comes down to it, though, the onus of all of this, of removing hackers from the servers, is not on us. It's on EAC. EAC is the company that was hired to remove hackers and to manage the hacker situation. And to the extent that they don't do their job well, which they haven't for years, then the onus falls on us. And very often, because we have limited tool set, it can appear like we're trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose. And we do the best we can to remove hackers as soon as possible. But it is an uphill battle, mainly because we don't have the tools to combat the situation as it stands now. Nevertheless, we do ban hundreds of people manually from the servers a day. We pass on evidence to Facepunch and EAC so that these people can get game banned. We go in, we remove the people they're playing with association bans. We do everything we possibly can. And nevertheless, the hacker situation is really a big problem right now. I know Facepunch has been prioritizing this issue. They've been working with EAC for the last couple of months and really working on getting improvements. And we did see some new ban waves, and occasionally an EAC ban comes in quicker than it might have before. So far, though, the improvements have been just a drop in the bucket as far as I'm concerned. They haven't been enough to stem the tide of this horrible issue. Thankfully, Facepunch is apparently working on this new networking thing that will make ESP a thing of the past. It'll make ESP impossible because it won't be networking the other players apparently until they're actually visible in the game. So people, one of the biggest hacks out there is ESP. People can see other people, other players through things. And apparently Facepunch has a thing coming out which will make that an obsolete thing. That would be fucking huge. But we haven't seen it go live yet, and I don't have any updates on that yet. Nevertheless, I'm not going to mince words. Hacking is a huge issue right now. And thankfully, Facepunch is working on addressing it, and they have been for a couple months. It is a priority for them. And unfortunately, it's still a problem though. We haven't seen the solutions put forth that we need to see to have the tide stemmed on the amount of hackers coming in. In the meantime of this, we're going to continue to do everything we can. And we rely on you guys, the players, to help us with this. And so if you are playing in a Rustafied server and you see a suspicious player, then or someone just flat out hacking, then please not only F7 them, but also go to my.rustified.com and put it in a report. It takes like less than 30 seconds to put in a report. And then feel free to hop in our Discord, note the report ID on the website, and put the report ID into our Discord. Say, hey, I got a hot one here. If it's, especially if it's like a brand new account or something like that, be like, yo, I got a live one, guys. Here's the report ID. Put it into general convo in our Discord, and we'll get on it as soon as possible. I really thank everyone who does that consistently because it really helps us remove these hackers as quickly as possible. But if you're in the server and you're complaining about it and you just complain and do nothing, then that's not helping. If you just have seven, that's great because it sends it to the devs. But the F7s don't go directly to us. We can look them up, but there's tens of thousands of F7s a day that go through. So it's just a bunch of static noise, basically. So what really helps is going to my.rustified.com, putting a report in, and then better yet, grabbing that report ID, going into our Discord, and posting that report ID. And I promise you, we are doing the best we possibly can. But it's still, I'm not going to deny that it's not a problem. It's still a big fucking problem. And I hope we see some resolutions in the near future.
I may have not heard it, but did you say / reported game as well?
Yeah, that's true. You can also do /report in game, and you can do /report in Discord as well. If you have the person's Steam ID, you can do it that way. It's a little bit harder to get the report ID from that, but you can always, if you did /report and you want to follow up on it, it all syncs in with the website at my.rustified.com. So you can check on the status of your reports there and grab report IDs and post them in Discord. And yeah, again, I really appreciate everyone who does that because that does really help us remove hackers as quick as we can.
Mm. To reduce the hackers, would it be possible to add a minimum hour limit and if they have 2+ Steam bans so they would be blocked from joining?
We do block people based on previous game bans. And so if you have multiple previous game bans, you do get banned. And we have automatic systems in place to do that. When it comes to a minimum player amount, a minimum hour played, I should say, unfortunately, we can't do that. We run vanilla official servers. We're on the official list. And so if you think about the experience for someone new buying the game, they buy the game, they go on, they look at the official list, they join a server, and the server automatically bans them because they don't have the sufficient number of hours. We're not able to do that and limit by that. I kind of wish we could, but given our official status, we're unable to do any checks like that. Nevertheless, we do have alerts and triggers in place for lower hour accounts, and we do definitely take that into consideration when looking at a report. If you report someone in their 40 and 2 and the account was first seen yesterday, well, clearly they're a fucking hacker and we remove them and their team. But a lot of new people buy the game and come to play, and it wouldn't work to have them just auto get banned when trying to join, especially an official server.
Mm. Is Force Wipe only on console? No. Is Force Wipe on console the same as the PC?
I don't think so. The console is a completely different track. It's a completely different team. It's kind of a different game. You know, it's basically sort of this weird snapshot of the game 2 or 3 years ago, basically. And that's all run by Double 11. Facepunch doesn't even touch that stuff. And so, I mean, they of course coordinate and stuff, but they're not. Facepunch is not the one developing the game, and so they have their own schedules and their own development timelines and all that stuff. And it is pretty completely separate. And to be honest, I don't really track console at all. I've got enough to focus on when it comes to the PC version of this game, and the console version never really resonated with me too much. So I don't pay a ton of attention to console, but definitely join. They've got a Rust console Discord, and they should have all the information in there.
Can players swing on the vines?
It looks like, yeah, the new vines that will probably be part of the Jungle Ruins Monument and potentially the jungle biome. It looks like though you'll be able to Tarzan vine to vine on those things, which sounds pretty cool. And that's only based on commits. We've got no visuals yet and no ability to really like do that. But based on what we're seeing in the commits, it does look like you'll be able to kind of swing on a vine, which, yeah, cool.
Um, you were talking about having a VPN before, if you were having issues, and someone said Rustafied solo bans you for having a VPN.
We will kick you for having a VPN, but you can whitelist. So go to our Discord and do hashtag whitelisting. Look at the facts for that. It's actually the channel Unlock Features, I believe. And then you just have to whitelist yourself prior to joining, and then you will not get kicked for playing on a VPN. Once you've played a certain number of hours, I think it's like 10 or something like that, you no longer have to whitelist every time you join the server. But we did add this in as kind of increased friction for hackers because, of course, hackers, they get banned, they switch their VPN around, get a new account, and join again. And having them have to whitelist, especially when they don't have experience on the servers, adds a little friction and gives us a little more visibility and transparency into what they're doing, and subsequently a little more ability to be proactive about catching them. But unfortunately, for legit players who are new to the servers who do have to play on VPN, yes, it is a little extra friction for you guys as well. But it's pretty easy. It's just on Discord. You go to unlock features, you link your Steam account, and you press a button, and that should do it. And same thing for with GeForce Now. I see someone saying GeForce Now in chat, and GeForce Now is essentially kind of a VPN too. It changes your IP. You're playing from a different address, so you do have to whitelist for GeForce Now as well.
Will you be improving animal interaction to monuments and the new stone cliffs?
I ain't going to be improving shit because I don't develop the game. I just report on development news and run the best servers that we can. So yeah, I'm just a lowly, fan of the game like you guys. We're not developers of the game, and we're not on the Facepunch payroll for doing this or anything. We're a purely independent organization who reports on development news and runs the best servers we can. So no, I won't be doing anything with animal interactions or cliffs, but it does look like yes, they are bringing the new cliffs into monuments. I'm not sure when it comes to the animal AI what they're going to be doing as far as the monuments are concerned. If they're going to be doing improved or more complex nav meshes or anything like that, that's kind of up in the air. But I imagine it is a consideration for the development team as they are doing these iterations on various animal AIs.
How are things going with the Rustafied stats system?
They're moving along. In fact, I have a conversation with a new developer right after this stream
So
to
next week?
help us finish it out. So I don't think it's next week, but
Oh dear.
we're working on it. We're working on it as fast as we can, and I'm hoping for end of November. But definitely end of this year. It's looking so good. It's coming along so nicely. We've got this kick ass ingest system that's just grabbing all the data super quick. We can retain the data forever, basically. We've got the ability to do live updating of the stats. So you hit a tree in the game and give it a second or two, and your stat will update on the stats webpage. It's really responsive, really cool. light view, dark view, mobile responsive, all that stuff. And this is just the baseline. We have a lot of plans to improve on it after it goes live, but we will have public leaderboards. We will have personal stats with top enemies and all your personal stats with each weapon, how much you've gathered, all based on what server you're on and all that cool stuff. Really excited about it, but it is a very large undertaking. We're custom building this from the ground up. We've been working on it for months, and I'm really excited to see it go live. But I'm also not going to push it live until it's ready to go because I don't want to do an injustice to all the work we've done and to you guys by pushing out something that is shoddy or not ready to go. So I do look forward to having more news on that. But what I can tell you now is it is coming along nicely, and I'm super excited about what we're going to have to show you guys with that.
I just saw this. Is the set? Uh, is the stat system some API that Facepunch provides from their game servers?
Oh, I wish that would make it so much easier. No, we had to create this from the ground up, this whole new ingest system that monitors everything that happens on the server. The hard thing is if you if you monitor everything, it can bog down the server, and performance on the server is already very tenuous. And so we couldn't have anything that impacted server performance. So we had to actually work with our host to design this whole new ingest system that's a load balance thing that basically throws everything off into like a ClickHouse system and stores it all. And then we've had to build an API from the ground up that interacts with all that data in the way we need. We custom built the whole front end. It's in React and Tailwind, and then we're finishing tying up all the pieces and everything now. But it's really been a large undertaking. It's been a very expensive undertaking, but I know it will be so cool for our player base to have. And yeah, I'm really stoked about it. But no, it's not some Oxide thing. It's not some Facepunch API. We had to build this from the ground up because any current solutions had negative impacts on performance, which I prioritize again gameplay and performance over everything else. So I was unwilling. I know people have wanted stats for years, and other places have stats, but every option I saw negatively impacted performance. So I was unwilling to do that. But now I do believe, have a solution that doesn't negatively impact performance, and uh, nicely enough, it looks like it's way more not only performant but dynamic than other systems out there. So it is going to be really in a league of its own, I believe.
I saw a few people asking actually the same. Why is there always more cheaters on Rustafied? I always get 2 to 5 game notifications on bans every wipe.
Well, I wouldn't say there's more cheaters on Rustified. If anything, what that's telling you is we're more proactive about getting rid of cheaters, maybe, than you might see on other servers. If you aren't seeing ban notifications on other servers, that doesn't mean there's no cheaters there. It just means they're not getting banned. The cheaters are a huge problem in this fucking game, and they plague every server that has any population in it. Now, we do get a good number of cheaters just because we are on the official list and we run some of the most popular servers, and so that's where the cheaters want to play. They want to fuck up as many people's experience as possible. But to say that we have a larger number of cheaters on average than other official servers or servers in our caliber is just factually incorrect.
I think it's also like who's playing on the servers, right? Like there's a lot of fanboys out there with like content creators and stuff, so there's a lot of things having an impact, right?
Oh, for sure. It's a very dynamic, you know, place. Each server, and we run almost 40 servers, and so we do have our hands full getting rid of hackers. But again, we do our best, and we've got a bunch of tools in place to help us do that. But at the end of the day, we need EAC to do their fucking job. We need EAC, the people that have been paid for 10 years. Their business is getting rid of hackers. And and then to the extent they don't do that, the onus falls on us, to the server owners, and we have limited tools and limited resources to do it. My job, my business isn't getting rid of hackers. It's running the best servers that we can. But we do our best to get rid of the hackers. And sorry to get a little flabbergasted. It is like it wears on me at this point. I've been hosting these servers for over 10 years, and we've only seen the hacker situation progressively, it seems like, get worse. Occasionally it gets better, and then it gets worse again. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing, EAC? What's your one fucking job? I mean, and I don't mean to dig in them too much. I know they're doing the best they can, but at a point, it's like, when are we going to see some real solid improvement, not just a band wave here and there, but when are we going to see this situation get quelled? When are we going to see these hackers get stopped at the pass instead of stopped days after they've already been hacking and ruining everyone's experience? I hope soon. I hope it's soon. And I know Facepunch is working with the AC and doing the best they can to make improvements for this. And I do think we will see improvements in the future. But in the meantime, we're stuck holding the bag as server owners, and it's frustrating, but we're doing the best we can. I'm not going to give up on you guys. We continually bring on new server moderations. We continually try to improve our tool set at catching these hackers and removing them. But yeah, man, is it like frustrating? Am I tired of every time I look at Discord, it's like another hacker, another hacker, another hacker. It wears on you, but we're holding in there. I'm not giving up, and we're holding strong, and I'm holding out hope that EAC does have some drastic improvements in the near future, and we see this problem finally be put to rest.
Is there a duration for a ban if it's about trash talking? I've been banned on Rustafied for around 5 months now. I've learned my lesson. I'm sorry, we'll never do it again.
Rustified.com/support. Put in a support ticket, a ban appeal, and we'll look it over, man. Yeah, that's if it truly was just for a little trash talk. I mean, generally it takes a little bit more than just a little like fuck your mom type of talk to get banned from our servers for toxicity. But if it truly was just something like that, it's been 5 months. Put in an appeal. Say you're sorry. We'll probably unban you.
Yeah. Oh shit, I didn't realize you were official only. Why don't you do modded servers?
We tried a 2x modded server once, and we tried something else. We've tried here and there over the years, but it's kind of this chicken or egg thing. People only want to play like a populated server, so you start a new server and it's not populated, and people want to play it, but there's no one in it, so they don't want to play it. And they've kind of just fallen flat, I'll be honest. So we stick with our bread and butter, just the official vanilla servers, and that's our primary focus. And quite frankly, given we have almost 40 servers, that is more than enough work with the hacker situation and everything like that. It's more than enough to occupy our the entirety of our focus. And so we're not really I'm not really interested right now in trying to get into the modded space. It's already very saturated, and to try to break into that is very much an uphill battle that I'm not looking to wage right now.
Okay, that guy that just asked about the appeal, he said, I already tried 3 times and it says ban will be upheld, and I did apologize.
Well, then you probably did more than trash talk, or you doxed someone, or you did something. But I trust my moderation team when it comes to this. So have fun playing elsewhere, man. Sorry to say, but there are thousands of other servers, and so I'm sure you can find a home elsewhere. And I hope you learned your lesson and take that lesson into future endeavors in other servers.
What if I got game banned quite some time ago? Can I play on your servers from my nowadays account?
Read our rules, rustified.com/rules. Uh, Off the top of my head, it's like if you have one game ban over 180 days old, then you are allowed to play on our servers. That's a policy that we enacted to fall in line with basically every other official community. Um, but if you have multiple game bans, or it's a game ban less than 180 days, then you are not allowed.
Could you make the server pop higher on EU Trio?
Uh, that's the second time that question has been asked. I already answered that question. Dynamic population, prioritize performance. Uh, eh, Probably not.
I think it's because people come in later sometimes and they don't hear it.
Yeah, it's all
Let's
good. All good.
let's do a recap.
Yeah, let's do a little recapity cap here and wind this puppy down. So, a note on daylight savings time. We are 1 week from the update and force wipe, November 7th. The daylight savings time is in effect for EU, but not for US. So, with the wipes, they are wiping at 3 p.m. local time for the region. So, US wipes may seem like an hour off for EU people today, and vice versa, just given daylight savings time hasn't caught up in the US yet. Daylight savings time for US is this Sunday, and so it should all be back in order next week, but this is a confusing week for this just because we they do daylight savings time differently. Nevertheless, the server's wiping today. It is a 5 Thursday month, so we've got the weekly and bi-weekly Thursday wipe servers wiping today at their regular scheduled time, and the bi-weekly servers will have just a 1 week wipe leading up until the update and force wipe next Thursday, November 7th, and that is expected at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT. We will have the update and force wipe going live, and we'll, of course, be back for an update stream to show you everything coming in the update. In the meantime, Halloween event is still live in game for another week. It went live on Monday, and enjoy those spooky festivities in game. As far as what we've got going on staging, there is a new gesture pack coming in. There's some new gestures and some new features regarding gestures that are in the game. There is a new escape options menu called gestures where you can actually set your gestures up and set up your gesture wheel. The gesture wheel can now be uh, like page turned basically with E and Q, so that kind of like with the building, like selecting a new building skin, you can scroll between the different pages of gestures and you can reorder your gestures and stuff like that. With that, there are some new gestures like finger wag, loser sign, knuckle crack, rock, paper, scissor, even, which is a cool one. You can actually play rock, paper, scissor with someone. You both queue up the rock, paper, scissor action or gesture, and then you can select which you want to play, and you can actually win rock paper scissor and play with your friend in game, which is pretty cool. It looks like there might be some other gestures coming in. I'm not sure right now if there's going to be a gesture pack DLC that will go live, or if it will be just given away to everyone, or a little bit of both. I feel like it's the latter, where it's just going to be a little bit of both. You'll get some new gestures, but then there'll probably also be a DLC where you can buy some other gestures as well. On top of gestures, we got the wolf AI iteration is coming in. So wolves are behaving much differently. They're working more cohesively in packs. They're howling. They're jumping on foundations. They're afraid of torches and campfires, and just in general, displaying more complex social behaviors. And it looks like that is coming in next week as well. We've got some previews to the siege weapons. This is a large body of work they're working on with, which really stands to change the meta of raiding. We're going to have these kind of medieval like siege weapons, including a ballista, catapult, battering ram, and siege tower. We got some previews this week thanks to Shelby and SciPX on X. And so we can see kind of these low poly texture free versions of what these things are going to look like. You'll be able to tow the ballista and catapult with horses and maybe even cars. And you'll construct them kind of by putting up this base skeletal structure and then hammering it away until it's fully built. And then the battering ram has a driver's seat and a fuel tank, so it looks like you'll be able to drive that and maybe take down some large wood gates and things like that potentially. And there's two new types of ammunition. There's going to be some large spears for the ballista and boulders for the catapult. And a lot of this is still up in the air, definitely not coming for November. It was merged into Aux 2, though, so that tells me potentially we could see it for the December update, and maybe we'll see like a public testing sometime mid-November after the update and force wipe. They'll open up Aux 2 and allow for a couple weeks of public testing, and then maybe we'll see this stuff go live for the December update. They're also doing work on removing old rocks. This was with the new world update that brought in all the new cliff faces and new rock formations. There's still the old rocks and cliff formations that are in the game. Those were originally scheduled to be removed for November. They're now going to be removed in December. So if you are a custom map maker, you do have a little bit more time to replace those old rocks with the new ones on your maps to account for this change. There's a bunch of miscellaneous quality of life stuff coming in. A lot of it looks like it is coming in for next week. There's the mixing table will now allow you to click a recipe and it'll auto add the ingredients to the table inventory in the correct amounts and locations. You'll even be able to repeat click the recipe to add another set of ingredients to said table. They've added the shopkeeper NPCs to water wells A and B. So the new water wells that came in with World Update 2.0 uh, have the new NPCs, but the old wells were still on the map but didn't have the NPCs, so now they will have those NPCs. Map markers now have a default number as their name, so when you add a map marker, it'll give like a 1, 2, or 3, and then you can, of course, change that name, but that's just a little quality of life dealy going on. They've got various fixes for caves coming in. So if anyone was experiencing some issues in caves since the world update came out earlier this month, those should be resolved with the update and force wipe next week. They've got some nifty new input and output arrows for electricity nodes and things like that. So when you're working with electrical stuff, you can see some very clear, there's red output arrows and blue input arrows. So you can just really easily identify where you should have the inputs and where you should have the outputs. That's nice. They did an overhaul of the flashlight visual, so it's got a softer appearance and kind of this like haze around it. So it's just kind of like a different appearance for the flashlight that you'll notice, especially, well, at night when you're lighting shit up. They've also just recently added in a 2-second hold time for unclaiming a bag. So you have to hold that button for 2 seconds to unclaim the bag. So that should avoid any accidental unclaims and things like that. And then finally, it looks like large backpacks will soon be skinnable. So we'll probably have some community built skins for the large backpacks coming in the near future. And that does it for quality of life. There's a bunch of other stuff being worked on, a tier 1 SMG, work on snakes and that whole jungle ruins monument and things like that. And also work on shields. There's going to be a couple types of shields as a defensive weapon or mechanism. Not clear when those are coming in. I don't think any of them are coming in for November, but maybe we'll see them in December. As always, we'll keep you posted. They added some basic tracking for queue and wait times and status and stuff. So that might just be a like back end thing for tracking, but you might notice some shifts to queue stuff, maybe a timer or something when the update goes live. It looks like they're adding some new temperature tea recipes, not finalized yet, but we'll keep you posted. And then finally, there's some first signs of ice sculptures being added, which my guess is that will be for the Xmas event mid December through the end of the year. There's always the holiday event for Rust, and it looks like this year there will be the option of sculpting with some ice, which is pretty cool. And we'll keep you posted on that. But that about does it for everything going on the staging branch. And as always, we'll be back next week, same time, same place, to give an update stream. The update is expected out normal time, so basically 1 week from today. And we'll also, of course, have an article on rustified.com, as we always do, going live first thing Thursday, midnight Eastern time. And that will summarize everything coming in the update in text and pictures. And also follow us on X throughout the week because we'll have more information as we get clarity on certain things and all that stuff. We'll be posting to X to keep you up to date day to day on what is coming in this update. But yeah, that about does it. Was there any small question prior to winding down? Because we're over an hour
Yeah,
now.
I know. We do have three though.
Okay, let's do them.
Yes. So, what about the rabbit? The rabbit has been in Rust already for years, but they never added in game.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see that at some point in the future. The Wolf AI iteration, I believe, is just one facet of a much larger body of work where they're redoing all the animal AI. And we've got several new types of animals coming in: snakes, crocodiles, jaguars. Most of that's related to the jungle biome and jungle ruins, I believe. But yeah, hopefully we see rabbits at some point as well.
Will you be improving animal interaction to monuments and the new stone cliffs?
You asked that one already, Shadow or Misty.
Did I?
Yeah,
Yep.
you asked that one already,
We've
and
had so many questions today. Sorry about that.
it's all good.
Okay.
And maybe they will, but we won't because we're not developers of the game.
Yeah. Oh well. Last question. I have a question. Why do you have 3 monthly servers, and you make them different pub? I would wonder if you are looking and making them all the same pub.
Originally, they were all the same pop, but then we changed the threes to be no blueprint wipe, and they became more popular. So we upped the pops of those. At the end of the year, I am considering some shifts to the server lineup. So you might see some changes in the future. But I hear you. To someone just coming in and looking at it, it's like, wait, why is this that and this that? And all I can say is that's kind of just how it transformed naturally over time based on like demand and stuff like that. But yeah, I understand the confusion, but I don't really have a good answer for you. It's just kind of how that cookie crumbled.
Okay. Bye.
But all right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, we are just an independent organization. We're not on the Face Punch payroll. We're not developers of the game. So I do want to thank you all so much for the support, for tuning in and watching, for subscribing, for giving bits. And to our wonderful, beautiful, loyal VIP customers, thank you all so very much because literally we wouldn't be able to do this year after year, week after week, month after month. We've been doing this for over 10 years now, and the only way that we're able to continue doing it is through the support of the community. So thank you so much for that support. And thank you, Artemis and Miss D, for being my co MCs as always.
As always, you're very welcome.
Yep, you're more than welcome. Happy Halloween, guys.
And yeah, happy Halloween, guys. Shout out to the whole team at Rustafied. Thank you guys so much for all the work that you do. Shout out to Face Punch. Thank you guys for continuing to improve this game and add new content and awesome updates every month. Love you, Face Punch. And yeah, with that, we'll wind this puppy down. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful wipe. This is Bugs signing off.